speaking out now. The adults are back in the room. They've had enough of the rainbow. That's not a moment too soon. Many big men are upset now. The hard men are making some noise. They're making it clear that the wokery's over, that little girls can never be boys. I was glad when I heard Donald Trump make it clear that you're either a man or a woman. The whole world is sick of the Jewish subversion. The end of the faggotry's coming. Well, they may talk tough and they may ruffle feathers, but almost without an exception, they're wasting their time. They don't got what it takes to deal with the only real question. There's many big men speaking out now. The adults are back in the room. The big men are calling the shots now. The firewalls are about to come down. J.D. Vance, a fine name for a sheriff. J.D.'s a real tough politician. He ain't taking no prisoners. J.D. is a man on a mission. We all love what he said about free speech. Drank his health when we heard the big news. We'll know that JD's a big cowboy when JD confronts the big Jews. Well, you may talk tough and you may ruffle feathers, but JD, won't you hear my suggestion? You're wasting your time and you're wasting mine until you confront the real question. Yes, the test of the ages, Lord, who's gonna face it? I'm talking about the Jewish question. They can't stand the heat, these tough guys can't take it. Talking about the Jewish question. They talk all around it, they try to erase it, but sooner or later, we'll just have to face it. All the hard men go soft here, guess they can't help it, but sooner or later, it'll have to be dealt with. They all claim to be Christians, to stand with the Savior. You can take it from him, that's Judas' behavior. Lord, give us the courage to ask the big question, or we might forget to pray for their conversion. Talking about the Jewish question. I'm talking about the Jewish question. Talking about the Jewish question. Talking about the Jewish question. There's many big men speaking out now. The adults are back in the room. The big men are calling for peace now. That's not a moment too soon. looks like the war might be over. Zelensky's dazed and confused. Is Trump any better than genocide Joe? When it comes to the genocide Jews, we all know abortion is murder. The Jews want abortion exemption. Is it always a crime to kill babies? Or for Jews, do we make an exception? Yep, they may talk tough, and they may make the headlines, but the train's gonna soon leave the station. They can be heroes or history's failures. This wounded old world is still waiting. It's the test of the ages. Lord, who's gonna face it? I'm talking about the Jewish question. They can't stand the heat. These tough guys can't take it. I'm talking about the Jewish question. They talk all around it. They try to erase it. But sooner or later, we'll just have to face it. All the heart and no bloodshed. Yes, they can't help it. But sooner or later, it'll have to be dealt with. They all claim to be Christians, to stand with the Savior. You can take it from Jesus, that's Judas behavior. Lord, give us the courage to ask the big question, or we might forget to pray for their conversion. I'm talking about the Jewish question. I'm talking about the Jewish question. I'm talking about the Jewish question.
Good morning. My name is Michael, and I'm broadcasting from my garage located in St. Michael's Parish in the Pine Tree State's most powerful and divided city, Augusta, the political center of Maine. Every day I begin by imploring the assistance of God's Archangel of War, St. Michael. Please pray with me if you can. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and the other evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Happy Saturday. It's so good to not see you in person because I'm in digital virtual land, and so are you. I probably shouldn't say this, but if you're not watching me, you're probably better off, because we've reached the point where nothing you see on a screen can be trusted in the instant. You have, especially now with AI slop showing up on YouTube through video, you have a duty before God and for your family and for your own soul to start instantly asking questions the minute you power up a video on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere online. Of course, television, there's a reason they call television programming. The content that you have consumed on television your whole life is called programming for a reason, because it is programming. It creates an Overton window. It creates boundaries within which you stay with your thinking, especially with your critical thinking. So it puts certain ideas, issues, discussions outside the window, outside the boundaries of the Overton window. And that Overton window for Americans has been tightening up, getting smaller and smaller as the years and now the nanoseconds go by. That Overton window is shrinking so that the view you have into reality is shrinking. So reality is there. It's real. Nobody's going to change it. It's real. God made it. It exists. And you get to know the truth by understanding reality. I would argue, especially the reality outside the borders of the Overton window that you can't see because of the window, unless you maybe lean into the window and you can see a little bit more, but you still can't see 360 degrees of reality. If you're on their side, the propagandist's side of the window, then you can't get a full picture, a full view of reality so that you can think reasonably and critically about what you're being told. So you may think it's the truth, but if you're thinking of it because you've limited yourself to what you can see through that window, through that Overton window, then are you gaining knowledge of the truth? You have to ask yourself that today. And I argued this week that this concept of the Overton window has been weaponized by the powers that ought not be, so that you, especially if you're a dedicated Facebook user or user of any centralized social media platform, you have your own individualized Overton window. It's just for you. You have your own divide and conquer. The powers that ought not be now have the power to create an individualized Overton window for every single human on the planet. Why would they do that? Divide and conquer. If you're at war and the powers that ought not be are obviously at war with you and me and every other person on earth, if you're at war, then you divide and conquer in order to weaken your enemy and ultimately overcome them and control them. So what's the let me interrupt my thought there and forget what I was my threads, but maybe I'll come back to it. If I don't, then you're going to get another show featuring stream of consciousness from this human mind. It's not AI. You know I'm not AI because it's not an ordered thing. Have you noticed that about AI slop on YouTube? That one way you know that you need to begin questioning whether you're watching AI or a real person is it doesn't really do stream of consciousness. Now, eventually, I'm sure, maybe within a day or two, artificial intelligence will be able to manufacture or fake the human stream of consciousness. I have no doubt that it's going to reach that point. But right now, one clue that you are given when you're watching a video, especially a video that you are drawn to emotionally or because it fits within your Overton window, is that it has sort of a ferocious outline, and it builds point by point by point. It's not stream of consciousness. So be sure to start asking questions if you're like me and you don't want to trust AI, especially if it's feeding you reinforcement of your Overton window, then that's one clue you can look for when you're watching a video. For example, how do you know this video isn't AI slop? There's no absolute way for you to know at this point other than to look for little ticks and hiccups in my facial expressions or in my speech, my dialogue that might give you a clue. But I think they're going to get rid of all that. That's going to be absorbed. and probably they're going to be able to mimic stream of consciousness. So we'll have to see. But anyway, I mean, I'm easy to confirm. I'm easy to check out online because I've been blogging forever and whatever. You know, it's very easy for you to confirm that I do live in Maine. This is my garage, blah, 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 that I am not artificial intelligence. So if you're watching YouTube or X, watching me on YouTube or X, then you can comment and I can see it. The other day I learned that if you get more than a dozen or so people commenting, there's no way I can. So I've just got a few comments here. Shane is watching, and I can put it up on the screen. Good morning, Shane. And then he agreed with me about something that I've already said. So anyway, if you want to ask a question or make a comment and you're on Twitter or YouTube, then you can do that. I'm also always stream reliably at michaelheath.tv. The reason I say reliably is because YouTube and X are third parties. They're centralized databases. They have they run algorithms that practice censorship. And so there's a third party between me and you. At michaelheath.tv, there's no third party that I don't control in between me and you. There is a third party. It's my son, Jared, and he owns the hardware layer, the server upon which I live stream. He owns the whole stack from the hardware up, software, hardware, software, etc. So so that's the most reliable place to get my archive and to see me streaming every morning of the week at 6 a.m. Wasn't that song at the beginning just incredibly awesome? That was Duck Street Studios out of London. I'm probably going to play all of his videos that are on his YouTube channel. I think there's over 50 of them as openings for my shows until I've exhausted his discography there. Sean McNaughton is a Londoner. He frequents Speaker's Corner, where it's probably become the only place in London where you can attempt to practice free speech. And I guess there's been some pushback against Speaker's Corner even. But now in England, they're arresting people for speech online. I think my guess is, or my sense is, about the only thing that needs to happen for the police to send 12 people to your door, walk through it without you opening it because you're on the second floor in your bathtub naked. About the only thing to stop that from happening now in England, or the only thing that's needed, that you need in order to make that happen, is for someone to complain, someone to say, oh, I feel threatened, I feel unsafe. And so then you've got 11 police officers knocking down your door, coming upstairs to you while you're naked in the bathroom, feeling secure, and being arrested, which literally happened recently in England. And this gal was arrested because she said something online that offended somebody. That's England today, the home of the Magna Carta. So does the First Amendment mean anything in America anymore? Really doesn't. Pam Bondi has promised to come after hate crimes, what she calls and what the government defines as hate crimes. We all know what that means. That means if you say anything untoward, anything critical online about gays or Jews, then you will go to jail. That's what she means. And that's what Trump means when he talks about it. Obviously, that's what anti-Semitism means to the Jews. What anti-Semitism means is that they have the right to kill you if they believe that you've said anything anti-Semitic. They have the right to destroy your life, to fire you from your job, or to put you in jail, or to kill you if they decide that what you said is anti-Semitic. That's what anti-Semitism means now in the United States of America. So, as is usual with me, going back 40 years, I want to be first to be put in jail. I want I want them to know where I live. I want them to know what I think. I mean, I've been so dedicated to that principle since I started my political career over 40 years ago, that I missed a reality that I should have known back when I was creating videos and I was writing my blog in the run up to 2020, because I recorded some videos wearing my FedEx uniform. I was doing last mile delivery for FedEx off and on for a half dozen years. I worked for a few different contractors, and I didn't even realize I had, as it turns out, I had never signed one of those social media contract things that workplaces make you sign all the time now, related to their logo and their uniform and your own speech online. I hadn't signed one. We found out that I hadn't signed one with this particular contractor, and as it turns out, FedEx got mad at the contractor for not making me sign one of those things. But it doesn't matter. It didn't matter that I had never signed one. The fact that I wore the uniform and I criticized FedEx, and the reason I wore the uniform was because I was doing this. I was kind of live streaming on the way to work. I mean, I had to work like 10, 12 hours a day. And so I didn't want to change. I was too lazy. So I would wear the uniform and I would criticize FedEx for being pro baby murder. And I mean, I'm smarter than that, right? Even though I hadn't signed the thing, I should have known that I shouldn't wear the uniform logo. And then I wore their rain jacket because I think they make the most effective rain jacket on earth. That FedEx rain jacket they issue you when you do last mile delivery for them. Some of the contractors issue that. And so when I was protesting during those years in places like, I can't remember, Tennessee, some city in Tennessee, so there are cameras everywhere, and I'm wearing the FedEx rain jacket, and I'm not being bombastic out there. That's not my style, but I'm there, and so that everybody takes pictures, and it ends up online. And I'm in front of an abortion mill, and I'm protesting on abortion wearing a FedEx rain jacket. So I did that in front of the Supreme Court of the United States, and cameras rolling all around the place. So if I had really wanted to keep that job, then I would have not done that. I would have not. But I didn't even think of it. The reason I didn't think of it is because my principle, going back to the beginning of my political career, was when it comes to murder or sodomy, I always worked to try to speak plainly and consistent with Christian morals, and leave the rest up to God. And so that is how I have approached my life. And so, of course, that got me canned at FedEx forever, anywhere in the world for the rest of my life, by the legal team in Atlanta, Georgia. And it also earned me a visit from the FBI. And as I reflected on all that afterwards, I realized that I was partly responsible because I did wear their logo. They are a private company, and under our jurisprudence, the private companies are not the government. And what I learned is that actually political and religious free speech are only protected if you what is it? It's not protected if you're working for a private corporation wearing their logo. It's not protected speech. I can't remember. I learned that when it is protected. I think it's protected when you're speaking as a private individual, which is, of course, what I've been doing since I resigned from the Christian Civic League of Maine and decided to build the foundation of my speech on my identity, Michael Heath. I'm not representing a board of directors, an institution, a private corporation, or anything else. I'm speaking for me personally, and I'm protected. As I understand it, my speech is protected on that basis. Now, that may have changed. It's probably going to change. I think it's obviously changed, right? Because you got the Attorney General promising to come after me for hate speech, for my questioning of the Jews and my questioning of all things fake and gay. So Saturday, it's great. Today, what are we? So I talked about Duck Street Studios. Let's see. Let me go here and here. And well, I guess my Groyper crowd that numbered about 25 came a couple days ago and promised me $100. And none of it, that's one of the things I've noticed about young people. Lots of who are online, lots of swearing, lots of promises that mean nothing, lots just, and it's just drama, and it's got to be loud and proud. And that's what I experienced from the so-called Groypers the other day. So I gotta make this bigger. I hope they come back. I meant what I said about how I feel about Nick Fuentes and some of their messaging. So, and I meant what I said about wanting to help them here in Maine. I have 3 sons, right? The Groypers are young men, gamers. All my sons play video games. I never got into it. So I have kind of a personal connection to the Groyper movement because it's young American men who have become political through gaming in their parents' basement. And so it's good. And they're young. They got their whole life ahead of them. I'm an old grandpa, and maybe my truth telling, maybe the reality I've lived, but they hate the boomers so much. It's obvious. They really have an animus, an irrational animus toward old people like me. So I really, when I was having that interaction with them a couple days ago on the live stream, I didn't expect to see him again. And now it turns out, according to a friend, that that might have been robots. So the internet, it really is a weird place. Let's see. This is what you get when you're watching a guy who doesn't have a producer, does it all himself. Is you get these hiccups, these pauses. So I'm opening up Primal. I'm continuing to do my education regarding decentralized social media. And so I'm going to be showing you something that looks like Twitter or X, but it's actually primal.net, which is a client built on top of a protocol called Noster, notes and other stuff through relays, which holds the promise of offering you a public media platform where there's no middleman. There's no power granted to somebody like my son. There's no middleman with Nostr because of how it is designed as a layer 1 protocol. I can't go much beyond that. It gets pretty technical, but I'm pretty sure that is the property, a essential property of the layer 1 protocol for Nostr, notes and other stuff through relays. So what I'm going to show you here is my Primal profile, just like an X profile or a Facebook profile. And this is how I organize my thoughts, my stream of consciousness for this show every day. Is I quote post on X, and then using a program called Xnoster, I republish those posts on primal.net. And that gives me a library for the past 24 hours that is consistent with my hot takes or my reactions to the news, to political news, religious news, and helps me to not just give you an opportunity to check in more frequently than every day, if you choose to do that by going to heath@primal.net, but it also provides an outline for this hour that I look forward to spending with you every morning. So if you want more of me, between my live streams, then you can go to Primal, Heath at primal.net, or you can go to michaelheath.org. I haven't been blogging frequently in recent weeks, but sometimes I get the bug and I'll publish long form blog posts somewhat frequently. I'm not, I don't know if I'll ever develop the habit of using AI so that I can create more frequent blog posts or narratives. I can't imagine I will. So time limits my opportunity to be creative with online content like it does all of us. And I probably am going to just stick with that and not try to shoot for monetization or number go up kind of use of any online media. I'm just going to keep being authentic is one word for it. So this is Primal. This is my profile page. So I posted this 40 minutes ago on X and then brought it over to Primal. Leave sticks out of signs. So this is in this post. Let me pull it up here and share it with you. So we'll read the post first, and then I'll go back and read my comment. So this is from Tim Bodnar's Truthslinger Project. Let's rally, Maine. It's now or never in Maine politics. Tim Truthslinger and Jen will add our voices of discontent with our government. State Auditor's Office in Augusta, here in Augusta, at 19 Union Street at noon today, Saturday, the 3rd of January. Bring signs and flags, but leave sticks out of the signs per a new state law. Dress warm, and I'll see you there. And so here is the organizer. I think her name is Heather, is organizing this. Tax strike rally at all state capitals, and we want our money back. And this is inspired by Nick Shirley, this X, I think an X, I suppose, I don't know which platforms he's using, maybe multiple. And it's gone viral, exposing fraud in Minnesota. Everybody's commenting on it, on him, except for me. But it's just because I haven't taken time to go down the Nick Shirley rabbit hole just yet. So stand up, speak out, demand accountability. So that's that. And so I did a little hot take on it here. Leave sticks out of signs. I suppose that goes for flags as well. What a bunch of nonsense. We, the people, aren't a threat to one another. The government is the one that needs the sticks removed. Government isn't making us safe. It is literally disintegrating Maine, and we're allowing that to happen by continuing to not think realistically about how government mechanisms are being weaponized by the powers that ought not be to play to our instinct to be respectful toward authority. Well, for authority to earn respect, it needs to be responsible. It needs to follow the rules that govern the authority, that govern the institution. And it's obvious to all of us in Maine now that our government does not follow the ultimate rule, which is the Constitution. If it did, it wouldn't ignore or weaponize disbelief of God, because in the preamble to the Maine Constitution, there's a bunch of ideas that are respectful toward Christianity, actually, but toward more directly toward religion. Still in there, and that's the highest law of the land. Statutes are the level below, the layer below. So layer one, to use a technical term or analogy, layer one of Maine authority, of government authority in Maine, is the Constitution. It's the Maine state constitution. And you can't get off page 1 before you realize that your government, our government, doesn't care even a little bit about what the Constitution says. It's all been misinterpreted and reinterpreted and ignored since it was created in the 1820s, I believe, to the point now where there's no rules that govern the application and the use of Robert's Rules of Order, or of any of the mechanisms that govern and define respect and civility in Maine. All of the respect and civility in Maine is directed at the most irresponsible, satanic, and evil force in our state, which has become now the government, because it doesn't hold itself accountable to its own rules. And if we allow that to continue, then we will continue to disintegrate as a polity, as a society, as a civilization. We will continue to disintegrate. We won't integrate over generations or over time. We will continue to disintegrate, to become hyper individualized, because we're all plugged in to the weaponized, centralized, social, antisocial media layer, living in constant nanosecond inspired chaos, because we're living within our own individualized Overton window. So what's the path out of this? Where is the hope? Where's the hope? How do we fix this? Do we continue to accept laws like you can't come to a rally with a flag because it has a pole in it, and you're going to come to the rally with the flag and you're going to hold it with 2 arms and try to make it do a flag thing with your 2 arms, wave and stuff? Or are we going to develop common sense and realize that this is absolutely disconnected from reality? Because truly, we all know at these rallies, the threat to safety is not the people who show up at the rallies. And they're going, someone's going to argue, well, no, the bad guys show. You get 2 sides. Politics is all about, the enemies showing up, and then you might get some. It might become physical. If we don't get rid of the sticks, and somebody's going to get a black eye, or they're going to get a bruise on their head. Come on. Most of these rallies in my lifetime are like 95% one side of the Hegelian dialectic in agreement, and then the other side shows up in tiny numbers, just tiny. And it almost never comes to blows, violence, or anything. Most it comes to is name calling against each other. There's just no evidence to suggest that law enforcement should come with the authority to take away people's sticks that they're using to hold up a sign, or their flagpoles that they're using to fly a flag. This is complete idiocy. It's Satanism. This is satanic, full on satanic. Because the real threat has become this idea that we're going to defund the police. And the reason it has traction is because the police have gone beyond being peacekeepers and peacemakers. They're more like military war-making soldiers, and they're trained that way now. Most of our police departments are trained to have the instinct to go physical, to use physical force, and not bring peace to the situation, because they've been trained to be constitutional peace officers. They're trained to be soldiers. And now you're getting pushback from peace-loving citizens of their home. It's their home. They don't want to think about. They want to see their police. They want their police to be like Andy Griffith, right? They want that's what they want. That's what we all want, especially in Maine, because most of Maine are small villages. We want Barney Fife and Andy, whatever his last name was. That's what we want. That's what we all want. And that's what we should expect. And that's what we should demand. We should be demanding here in Maine, demanding that that stupid airport style metal detector set up with 4 or 5 or 6 highly paid peace officers. That's the first thing that's your greeting. That's how your political class in Maine greets you. They make you, force you into the posture of an enemy. They have no interest, no interest in trusting you. When the obvious solution to what's going on in the Maine State House, we're a Second Amendment state, very proud of gun ownership, and we ought to be. The real solution is that we should encourage all of those politicians and staffers to carry a gun, concealed weapon. Because then if there is a bad actor who gets in there at a public hearing or whatever, the problem is solved instantly by people with permit, whatever. I don't know if we have concealed, it doesn't matter. But it's solved by people of goodwill who are carrying on their person a reasonable amount of force if a bad actor goes into the state house with the intent to kill somebody with a gun or to kill many people in a short period of time. And if they're going to do that, they probably are going to use a gun. So what's the most effective way to push back against that? It's not to have a bunch of metals. It's not to have 5 or 6 overweight police officers frisk you on the way into your government's headquarters. That's a way to psychologically manipulate you into the mindset of a field slave. And what you're going into dialogue with or reason with inside that headquarters are not other field slaves. They are the house slaves of Maine. And the masters of the plantation called Maine, that now exists for all of us, are the powers that ought not, the hidden powers that ought not be. The reason they're hidden is because they've got the most money and they can afford the most lawyers and they can afford to be the most intimidating. So that's what we're dealing with in Maine right now. We need to get rid of all that. And instead, we need to have greeters who are smiling and peaceable and ununiformed, or if they are uniformed, they're not wearing some military style uniform. And we should have greeters at the State House inviting the public in to public hearings and to reasoning with their elected officials about the proposed changes to statute. That's the way we're going to have to choose to go forward. Otherwise, we are going to continue to exist as field slaves. Who are we? The citizens of Maine, the masses. And we're being guided into continual chaos and hate of even our neighbors by centralized platforms online and by television. So there is hope. I've just described it to you. And yesterday I observed that you can begin instantly today to become part of the solution by thinking of anti-social media as public media. Think of your Facebook page, think of your X page, think of your LinkedIn page, think of your whatever you're using to maintain your life online. is public media. It's your newspaper, it's your radio station, it's your television station. And as you think about that, and as you continue to create content there, integrate your identity, who you really are, what you really believe, integrate that into, to the extent you can, and still stay working, whatever, integrate your identity into that presentation of your identity. Bake it in. You can do it slowly. You need to be prudent about it, but you need to do it. You need to think of all this as public media. So back to my primal, so Heath at primal.net, back to my feed on primal.net, which I have absolute control over my feed. There's no algorithm that's sorting through the people I follow and prioritizing and that kind of thing. I get to choose what shows up in my feed when. There's nobody in the middle interfering in adjusting my feed for psychological reasons or adjusting my feed for commercial reasons to inspire me to buy a product. There's none of that with Primal. So let's talk this morning, this Saturday, about what's happening in Venezuela. I commented here on Max Blumenthal's post on X. So last night, apparently, or very recently, we did a shock and awe attack. America did on Venezuela. Lots of big, bold, dramatic explosions, kind of like the Baghdad War, start of the Baghdad War. Maduro is the president there. Russia and China are getting close to Venezuela, supporting them. Anyway, my comment, God, why have mercy on America? Talk about an evil empire. So you remember when Ronald Reagan called the Soviet Union the evil empire. And I've told you before that communism is the left wing of the Jewish internationalist bird, and the right wing is capitalism. Capitalism is not the same as the free market. It's not the same as free market economics. Capitalism is something different. And it's a Jewish internationalist idea, and it's the right wing of the Jewish internationalist bird. So what are we dealing with? What's global humanity dealing with politically at the moment? It's dealing with a Jewish internationalist bird. It's now inarguable, given Trump's obeisance just this week to the leader of a foreign nation, Bibi Netanyahu. It's obvious to everybody on earth who's in charge. It's not the empire. It's not the hegemon. It's not the United States of America. It's Israel, and it's the Jews. They're the ones who are in charge. And what's going on in Venezuela is that China and Russia are cozying up to Venezuela for a lot of reasons. One of the big reasons is because we screwed up so bad on Russia's border in Ukraine in 2014, spun up this war. We did that. America did that. England did that through the Mossad, the CIA, MI6. We spun up this conflict using the traditional techniques we've been using since the end of World War II of color revolutions. We spun that up, and we ended up threatening the western border of Russia. And so Russia had to do something. And so they started their special military operation a few years ago and went into Ukraine. And we've had that war to deal with ever since. And why? What was one of the reasons that this became a war, a kinetic war, where hundreds of thousands of people have been murdered and have died in this war? Because we had no business, no moral right to be there. Who's we? NATO and America, England, Europe. We had no right to be there. we had even agreed not to be there because Putin was wanting to be a part of NATO. And so we had come to certain agreements, which we broke as usual. And Russia was led to using military force because it was the only thing left to them. And why? Because the United States of America, which is all the way to the west on the other side of an ocean called the Atlantic Ocean, was supremely present on their border. So what's happening in Venezuela? Well, Russia and China are seeing what's happening in Ukraine and Taiwan as justification to be drawing closer to Venezuela. Why? Because Venezuela is in our hemisphere. It's in the Americas. And so they know that they're pushing up against the Monroe Doctrine, and that their pushing has created the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, and they're pushing against it. Why are they pushing against it? Because we are pushing against them in Taiwan and in Ukraine. So how do we resolve this? Well, how about we try diplomacy? How about we try keeping our word? How about we try moving toward understandings and treaties with potential belligerents like Russia and China, instead of just being a bully all the time? Why don't we talk our way to some kind of a solution instead of just resorting instantly and instinctively to bullying? The whole world has had it with this, with America's strategic failure to talk, to negotiate, to trust embassies, diplomats, that whole layer of government. We just bully our way as we lose the power of empire and as we cause the value of the dollar, the fiat dollar, to go to zero. Every single fiat currency system, fiat economy, fiat currency has gone to zero throughout human history. Once you disconnect the currency from, our recent experience has been gold or silver. Historically, that's been, gold and silver have been the sort of base layer of the value of currency. Like even in Rome, they ended up collapsing in large part because they debased whatever it was called, their currency. They debased it. They emptied it of the silver content. They emptied it of the gold content, and eventually it collapsed and went to zero because it became fiat. So the word fiat means you speak it into existence. It's not tied to something more fundamental, to a layer more fundamental. It's just something you can print forever. Fiat. So the only reason the dollar is propped up at this point, because of the decision we made in the early 1970s, is because of our chutzpah, our boldness, our declarations, our narrative, our bullying. That's all that's left to us. And the whole world has figured that out, sniffed it out. And so they're, over years, pivoting away from the dollar, the reserve currency of the planet. And they're working on new protocols for currency, for trade, for economics. Who's they? BRICS is the most identifiable alternative right now that's global, that includes many nations. And America is classically using bullying tactics in Venezuela now, as of last night, with this shock and awe thing. What everybody knows now is that we no longer have the economic might to afford what we did after the shock and awe campaign in, sorry for keeping myself so small here. We no longer have the economic power or breadth or depth to carry through with our bullying as we did in Iraq when we did the shock and awe thing in Baghdad. We can't send Schwarzkopf in. We can't afford it. We can't we don't even have even if we could afford it, we no longer have an effective army trained and sized to create that kind of increased war temper globally. We don't have a military force consistent with being able to control that like we did when we went into Iraq with Schwarzkopf and the boys and rolled the tanks. We don't have that kind of power anymore. We have the power to go in and create a lot of explosions with munitions and with aircraft. But the other thing we're risking here, and I haven't heard anybody make a persuasive counter argument to this. Russia and China now have hypersonic technology that's better than ours. And hypersonic missiles are powerful not because of explosives or nukes, nuclear fission. They're powerful because of speed. They come out of orbit practically, thin steel rods with a density that and propulsion that causes them to reach speeds that literally can't be stopped by ammunition, by an explosion. It can't be stopped. Whatever it's targeted at, it's going to hit. So think about this, if that's true. We've got 12 aircraft carriers with ships attached, these fleets. That's how we project power is primarily, it's always been this way since World War II. We project power using our Navy. And we've got 12 aircraft carriers. We can't afford to build them anymore, but we've got them. And so imagine this. Why can't a nation, the two nations of China and Russia, which have hypersonic missiles, target 12 fleets? They know where they are. I mean, we know where everything is because of satellite spying and all that stuff. They know where they are. Why can't they send a hypersonic missile right through the spine of all 12 of those aircraft carriers in an instant? So you don't even need nukes anymore. 12 hypersonic missiles coming down out of space at the speed of whatever, super fast, faster than anything else. Penetrates the deck of the aircraft carrier and breaks the keel of the aircraft carrier and sends it to the bottom, along with 5,000 of our seamen. Why can't that happen? If you have a counter argument to that, if you can tell me that we've developed a defensive technology that could stop a hypersonic missile, please let me know in the comments or send me an email, because I want to hear the argument. I've looked around, I've looked for it, I haven't heard it. So if I'm Russia and China with that kind of technology available to me, hypersonic missiles, what would stop me if we continue in this bullying posture all over the world? What would stop me if I'm Putin or if I'm Xi Jinping? What would stop me from doing that if the bully reaches a certain point? I mean, by definition, there's only two ways to deal with a bully on the playground, right? You step up and punch him in the nose and then get yourself bloodied to a greater degree. That's one way to deal with it. You step up and you punch him in the face. That's one way, as an individual, as the victim. The other way is that the authorities take care of the bully, that the authorities manage the bully. So what's happening, in case you haven't noticed, is the global authorities are beginning to congeal against the United States and Israel. It's inarguable. The rest of the planet is coming together against us within the rules-based order that we created the rest of the world is entering into the rules-based order in such a way that we are becoming their enemy. And so they're managing this new complexion to global authority without sending our Navy to the bottom of the world's oceans. So, as I see it, this bullying is going to be, the bully is going to be confronted not by any individual victim state, but by the global authority, the rules-based order. It's going to be confronted. The bully is going to be confronted. That's how I see it. I don't see global vigilantism emerging from this. I don't see that. I also don't see World War III spinning up as a result of this, because the adults are in the rules-based order room. The adults are, and we are not the adult. The United States, Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu are not the adults in the rules-based order room. The adults are the diplomats and the presidents who are coming together within the context of the rules-based order, and over years coming to a point of agreement about our bullying and our supremacist ideologies, our supremacist ideas, our propensity to accept being led around by the nose by the Jews, to hate the world's, what is it, second largest religion, Islam. We're being led around by the nose on that point by the Jews. They're the ones who hate Muslims. We don't. We haven't lived in close enough proximity in North America, in the United States of America, to come to a reasoned, realistic, and true conclusion about what it's like to live among or to live with the Muslim religion. We allow ourselves to get spun up by wacky eschatologies, wacky interpretations of the prophets in the Old Testament and of the book of Revelation. We allow ourselves to get spun up by these lies, this propaganda. We allow ourselves to get spun up by it. And more of us, more and more Americans are figuring this out, and they don't want to be any part of it. I don't want to be any part of this Islam hatred. I'd much rather have a Muslim on this show for a conversation where I could ask them questions about their religion, and they can ask me questions about my religion, and we can have a conversation. I'd much rather go there with Muslims in Maine than with this knee-jerk, politicized hatred of Islam, because we really just don't understand it. We don't appreciate what it is. Like, I had somebody on the show this week argue that it's a cult. Well, yeah, I mean, religions have a cult character to them, but the term is really, in order for the term to be accurately applied, cult, you've got to realize that religions have cults within them by definition. And those, the cult of religions, or a religion, ends up becoming culture. But the religion exists in our human experience at a higher layer than the cult or culture. But they are directly related, but they're different. So is Islam, so when this person used it, I assume that he meant to use it as if it's a negative thing. It's a criticism, it's a critique. But that's not a firm foundation upon which you can build an argument against Islam, because there's hundreds of millions of Muslims, and it's recognized by hundreds of millions of people who are Muslim and by hundreds of millions of people who aren't Muslim as a religion. So I accept that it's a religion. It's just not the Christian religion. So awesome. Happy Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow morning, Sunday morning at 6 a.m. to pray with you and to give you my opinion as a failed political activist, failed in the sense that because I talk about the Jews realistically and all things fake and gay realistically, there's not much traction in politics for what I believe. And if you're interested in what I believe, then I look forward to seeing you again, or not seeing you, but being with you tomorrow morning at 6. In the meantime, Heath at primal.net is the best go-to, or michaelheath.org, or michaelheath.tv. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.